Hi, I'm Cameron, and I don't just read comics, I love them. On today's episode of Cameron Reads Comics, we are introducing my dear friend Regan to her very first comic, Superman Secret Origin by the Dynamite team of Geoff Johns and Gary Frank. This is arguably one of the best origin stories in comics, and for some fans, the definitive Superman origin. This is a super special bonus episode of Cameron Reads Comics, and I thought that with the celebration of the new year, I'd throw in a super fun bonus podcast episode. This one was a bit shorter than usual, but it's still packed with some great stuff. Happy New Year. Let's start it off with some comics. As always, there are going to be full spoilers for Superman Secret Origin by Geoff Johns and Gary Frank, so consider yourself warned. And remember to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and now YouTube at Cameron Reads Comics. And please, please, please leave me a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Now, here is your episode on Superman Secret Origin. The Superstar team of writer Geoff Johns and artist Gary Frank redefined the origin of Superman for the 21st century. This explosive story spells out the definitive origin of Superman, chronicling Clark Kent's journey from the cornfields of Smallville to the skyscrapers of Metropolis. Witness a whole new look at the beginnings of Lex Luthor, the Legion of Superheroes, Lois Lane, Metallo, Jimmy Olsen, the Parasite, and more of your favorite characters from the Superman family. It's a look at the mythic past of the Man of Steel with an eye towards the future. All right, so welcome, Regan, to the Cameron Reads Comics podcast.
Hello.
You are actually a very special guest because you are the first winter formal date I've ever had on
wow.
You're going to kill it. So,
Wow.
will you briefly explain like your relationship with pop culture and like comic books or like a fandom? Have you partaken in them?
Mm-hmm. So I never have read a comic before.
This is your first one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But I've definitely been familiar with like the whole fandom thing. For a while now. It started with Star Wars for me.
Are you still a Star Wars fan?
Of course.
Oh, love it. Love to hear it.
Yeah. My dad gave me the Star Wars VHSs and I watched those in my room and then we went to,
She's excited about the VHSs.
Yeah, I know. We went to all the premieres like when they came out the second round and then that one moved on to Harry Potter. Big Harry Potter fan.
Really? What's your? Are you even watching the new movies?
The Fantastic Beasts
ones?
Yeah, those are okay.
Uh-huh.
I'm not that big of a fan, but
Did you read all the books, or is it like exclusively movies?
I read all the books after I seen all the movies.
Oh, look
but
at you.
I went to the premiere of the last one like in costume and waited for like 12 hours. So.
You're loyal. Not for Fantastic Beasts, but Deathly Hallows?
Mm-hmm, part 2.
Oh, look at you, loyal.
Yeah.
And then Neville, our boy Neville Longbottom came through in that one.
That was the best part.
Who are you dressed as?
Bellatrix.
Oh, I don't know who that is, but
What?
that's cool. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan.
Wow.
People
I'm
just
sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm like, hey, you can get me into Harry Potter on your podcast. No, just
Okay.
kidding. But
Sure.
you'll have me on Reagan's Harry Potter pod, and I'll be
One
on,
episode.
Yes. You're also this is your first podcast. Poor girl. The story that had you on, you were like, Regan sent the nicest text over to me, and she said, "Hey, happy birthday!" It was my birthday the other day, and she said, "Happy birthday! I'm also listening to 2 episodes of your podcast, and now I think I want to read a comic." And I'm like, "Well, I got you covered." This book, especially, I was so looking forward to because it's one of my favorite Superman stories. So I guess my next question is, how did you like it?
I loved it. I read it in like 3 hours, one sitting, went through it. I really enjoyed it. especially for a first comic, it definitely kept me like interested the whole time.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, like this writer, and a lot of fans will like tell you that this is the pinnacle Superman story. Like they think that this is the one that nails the character the best. And I don't disagree, but I don't think it's my favorite Superman story. I just thought like I feel like I spoiled you because Gary Frank is one of my favorite artists of all time. And actually, if you look, I don't know, are you a big, I guess before we get into this text, are you a big Superman fan? Like how well did you know Superman before you read this? And
yeah, I didn't really know anything about Superman at all.
Really?
No.
Oh my gosh, cool.
I knew like that he's Superman.
True.
His like Kryptonite was his like downfall. I don't really know why. They don't really explain it in that comic either, so I don't still know why. And I knew Lex Luthor was the villain. I feel like I know that from Six Flags. I'm pretty sure
nice. We got a loyalist.
And that's it. I really knew nothing about him or his story or anything like that.
Yeah, well, that's good too because this is like an origin. So it's literally, I'm like, you don't really need to know anything before you read this. And so that's cool. It's so funny too. Oh my gosh, it's like, you know, when you read something, maybe for you it's Harry Potter or like other fandom or even Star Wars, it's like, I just want to be able to rewatch or reread something for the first time, you know? And I'm like, I hope that was that good for you because I just adore this story. So you liked it though. You appreciated it. That's good. That's good. So how did you feel this story like really starts off in Smallville and kind of, I'm excited about Smallville. Takes its time to get to know Clark in the city he grew up in. How did you like the Smallville stuff? Her like the very young kid drama.
So when I first started reading and saw Smallville, I used to watch Gossip Girl on CW, and I feel like Smallville was always after.
It's true.
And that was that a show about Superman? I never watched it.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, so picture Gossip Girl literally, but like in Kansas, and like it's a teenage Clark Kent figuring out he has powers, and it's like all the drama there, and then it's a bunch of hunky teens, like, you know.
I want to watch it now.
Oh, we got you, girl.
I'm down.
If you look behind you, that's an old Smallville poster in the corner.
Oh my gosh.
I was a big fan.
Wow.
I was a big fan. And it's like dreamy, like shirtless Clark Kent for the listeners.
Yeah, I always thought that guy was cute from the show, so I was like, hey, maybe I need to watch it.
I'm like, dang. Well, wait, do you have Hulu? It's on Hulu.
Yeah, okay. My next show.
10 seasons.
Next podcast, Smallville Review.
Right. Regan caught me, like for all my listeners, she caught me watching Are You the One? That was recently released on Netflix, and that's my dreamy hunk series right now. So actually that and Survivor.
Oh yeah. We've been watching Survivor, me and Ryan Russell. I don't know if he told you about that.
He didn't.
Oh, wow. I was never a Survivor watcher, and we just watched, I don't know, maybe like 6 seasons of it.
Oh my gosh,
like
I'm on. Which ones?
Oh gosh, we didn't go in order.
Good, me neither. Because I'm watching right now, I guess I can tell you what I watched, and that'd be easier. Heroes versus Villains.
Yeah, one of the best.
Oh my, it was so good. And then
All Stars, did you watch that one?
I watched All Stars when it came out. I'm gonna rewatch it though. And then 28, which was Brains, Brawn, Beauty.
Oh yeah, we just finished that one.
Because those were on Netflix.
Oh yeah, and those are like the best ones.
Oh really?
At least our favorites.
I'm on Micronesia, fans versus favorites.
Okay. Micronesia is supposed to be like a big one because we just looked at like best Survivor seasons ever, and that's the ones that we watched.
Yeah, no, they're good. So this is, okay, quick plug for all my listeners. Go check out Survivor because you have 2 people raving about it, all right? And also, this podcast is not dedicated to Russell. I'm not a fan of Russell on Survivor.
Oh, yeah, the other Russell.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Russell Gardner, who is a local on the podcast, I'm a fan of him, but not Russell on Survivor, all right?
Boston Rob, Team Boston Rob.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. Maybe Team Parvati. I don't know yet.
Oh, yeah.
No, the tone went down. Yeah. Actually, Regan, randomly, do you remember because winter formal date, but also just like when we were hanging out in high school, do you remember that I would like lasso you and like Aspen Perez and people from high school to go watch animated superhero movies? Do you remember that? I have a vivid memory of trying to get you guys all to watch Batman Under the Red Hood, which is like an animated Batman movie. Oh my gosh. So you have been into comic culture for a long time. I
hadn't seen Dark Knight until you showed me that movie.
You're kidding me. Oh my, well.
Back in the day.
I'm proud of myself. Are you like mostly DC or Marvel, you think?
I'm more Marvel.
Yeah.
I'm more into like the Captain America. All those are my thing. Captain America.
Yeah, that's so funny because I literally got, I have so many Marvel people on because just like people have been like exposed to more Marvel, right? And so I've had so many people on Marvel on, and so now I was like, okay, you want to be on? Here's a DC book because I'm preferably a DC fan
for sure.
But that's just me. Anyways, going back to Superman. So Smallville was kind of new to you, just the idea of it, and you liked the stuff going on. Did you know that little redhead girl was like Lana Lang, his like first love?
No, I didn't know that. And then was his mom named Lana too?
His mom is Martha.
The one from like the Superman mom, not the
Yes. Lara.
Oh, Lara.
Oh, you're so smart.
I was like, is that the same name?
I'm like, oh yeah, no. Lara is okay. So his dad, and you know the basics of the story. He was on Krypton, and then his parents. I'm like really excited. His parents. I'm like also dedicated to hitting my microphone because apparently we do that a lot here. It wasn't safe where he lived, and so then his parents sent him pretty much in a spaceship to Earth, where he landed in a cornfield in Smallville, picked up by the Kents, and so that's really where he grew up. And so how Kryptonite came about, just for some of your context, is it's radioactive pieces of Krypton that like exploded and pretty much either were like a part of the ship or like landed, and so it's not healthy for him because it is radioactive pieces of his homeworld, so they can only affect him, And so that's what Metallo, his heart, I don't know if it painted a good picture of that, but Metallo in this story, his heart is made of kryptonite. Right. And so that's what makes him such a big threat, It's the one thing that can like phase Superman.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
I get it.
Okay, so as you read the story, is there anything that surprised you?
I think that the part that was most surprising for me was like how relatable Superman was. Yeah. Especially in this origin story, how they bring it like back to his kind of like childhood and figuring out like, I'm Superman. The part that was one of the most impactful parts was when he's like, I don't want to be Superman. Like, I just want to be normal. I want to be your son. And then his dad's like, you are my son. And I think that's really cool because he seems so like misunderstood, but then he's still like accepted by his parents, which is, I think, super cool.
Yeah. Like, and I think they touch on that a couple times when they're like, is he alien or is he human? You know what I mean? And it's like, it doesn't really matter. Right. He's just someone who's trying to do the best he could. Right. When he moved to Metropolis, did you kind of how did you feel about like Metropolis kind of being like a rugged kind of place at first? You know what I mean? Like you talked to me about that analogy with the old woman and the purse. Yeah. You know what I mean? How did you kind of feel about that going in or that place?
Yeah, in the beginning, I feel like it was like super rough, and like Lex Luthor kind of like took over and wanted to like be in charge of it, and everyone just kind of had like a really dismal like point of view of life. But I feel like Superman really kind of like changes that for them and kind of gives them like, hey, you can do good too, like not just me, all of you guys can.
Yeah, and that's I think a lot of people, and I don't know how you felt about the character before this, but really like a lot of people will say that Geoff Johns is. Or like Superman in general isn't a character that can quite be relatable. You know what I mean? Because he's so powerful that there's nothing he can do that we can relate to. But I feel like Johns really nails it in this. He's a guy trying to do the best he can with what he's been given, and everyone can relate to that
for sure.
And I'm like, I'm such a fan. I'm like starts crying on audio because I love this story so much. Okay, so. Did you find this story accessible as a new reader? Because there's kind of a lot going on.
Yeah, I feel like initially it all made sense. The one part that kind of threw me off was the Legion like chapter.
Yes.
I was kind of like just thrown off because there's so many different characters and so many different names, and I was kind of lost. But I mean, I understand what was going on in general, but. I don't know, that little, like, issue, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The Legion of Superheroes. Yeah. So literally, and that's a nod to, like, in the Silver Age, meaning, like, in the 60s, they made, a group of superpowered teens in the 31st century that pretty much take Superboy, so literally Smallville Clark Kent, who doesn't really understand his powers yet. They take him and they bring him to the future to help them out because Superman's such a big deal in the future. Like his greatness has changed the way that landscape is navigated. And so he, in that scene, what it kind of nods to the 60s that like this happened. And it also kind of I like that they met him in a moment where he needed a lot of hope.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where it's
Yeah.
like he's so misunderstood
Right.
by these kids. You know, he can't be himself. He can't, you know, be super strong. Or like that one scene where he broke that kid's shoulder.
Yeah.
You know, he can't do his best, and there's very few people that he can be himself around. And it kind of nods to, here's these kids that know who you're going to be and that want to know you and want you to be yourself, which I just loved. And actually, you messaged me after you finished. You're like, I want to read another one. They did a Superman Legion of Superheroes book together, and it's like so beautiful. It's so good.
I'll have to read that one next.
I'm like, yeah, I got you covered, girl. So this is one of my favorite comics ever of all time. And because I think this art, I just feel like I spoiled you by giving you one of the greatest artists and writing teams ever. So how did you like the art?
I really enjoyed it. I think that he has such an amazing way of showing like human emotion in like facial expressions.
Yeah.
Where I felt like I was watching a movie the whole time. Like it's so realistic. One of my favorite parts was when there's about like 5 vertical like panels in a row, and I think that's super cool because you're kind of like it's like I'm watching it, you know.
Yeah.
Even though it's not, it's art. It's just like a 2D thing, but I think that he does a great job of really just like painting the picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I feel sometimes comic book art can be very limited to like the way the guy at the comic book shop describes it to me that I really like was that comic book art in itself is you can't really see expression. You know what I mean? Some people put so many lines on the page that it is just you can't tell what they're emoting. And I think this guy, Gary Frank, does an amazing job just showing how people are feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you can tell Lois is in love with Superman, and you can tell that you know Lex Luthor's angry all the time. You know, and I just think the way he conveys those emotions are so good, and the colors in this book. I'm like, I'm in love with the colors because you find that lightning in a bottle kind of thing, you know, with these creators, and I saw that. So, what was your favorite moment, you think?
That's hard. I feel like I had a lot of favorite moments. Oh yeah, one of my favorite moments was when Superman's on the roof with Jimmy, and he's gonna like take one of Superman's first photos of him, and he's like standing there with his arms like down, and then Jimmy's like, would you put your hands on your hips? And I thought that was pretty cool because that's kind of like the Superman like iconic pose, and that was kind of cool seeing like the origin of that whole like. I like those little moments in it also. Another one was definitely like the parallel ending with we kind of talked about it earlier, the old lady, and like when he first gets to Metropolis, she's like, don't look at the sky, like we don't look at the sky, we're you know like, and then at the end she's like, you know, it's okay. Like we can. I forget what she says. Actually, do you remember?
Yeah, she's like everyone is looking up, and maybe sometimes we see him, but we know he's always there.
Yeah, we know he's there, and like I don't know. I thought that was super cool.
It was so good. It was so cute, and like that was such a sweet little moment. And what about? I don't even think I said my favorite moment.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite moment, honestly. I'm like, I didn't know how much I loved Metropolis being conveyed that way because I'm like, no matter what, I think Metropolis is a city of hope. And whether or not Superman is responsible for that, I don't know. But I think that Metropolis being maybe, I'm like, what am I trying to say right now? This is me. This is how we do it here. I'm like, I think actually probably the Legion stuff. I think the Legion stuff was really special, and like, I'm always for a good gut punch in my comics, you know? And so I just thought that was super duper duper special. So, that's probably my favorite one. Oh. That's me. There you go. So, my next question for you is, favorite character. Who do you think your favorite character was?
So I think my favorite character, not to be like cliche, but I feel like it's Superman.
That is not cliche. Russell and I were actually talking about this the other day, where Superman is such a good character. So
how could that not be your favorite? Like I don't know.
I'm like, and obviously he's the most likable, and I think that his appearance and everything is like so. It was special and heartwarming. You know, I think there's one of the biggest strengths in this book is that there's so much heart.
I like Jimmy too.
Jimmy's probably my favorite.
Yeah.
And especially like when Superman like thought he was about to like he just had a bad moment or something and he thinks Jimmy's about to like jump off the roof and Jimmy's like, no, like not at all. He's like, what? And then and also I think the Jimmy moment when Lois and Clark are trying to have a moment.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Where like Lois is about to go in for the smooch. Mm-hmm. Jimmy's like, hey guys. And it's like, I think that is who that character is like perfectly.
You're talking about the end?
Mm-hmm.
At the end, I wanted to know what was going to happen because before, when he kissed like his childhood love, then his eyes would glow red, then we didn't get to see what happened because they didn't kiss.
I think that
I wanted to know.
You know what? In the comics, they ended up married with a kid. So,
but would he have to wear glasses?
No, because he was learning his abilities. Like in Smallville, they'll show you when Clark is attracted to a woman, his heat vision gets out of yeah.
That was a real Elsa moment for me. Like the conceal, don't feel when he gave him the glasses, you know, like when she got her gloves. That's really what I felt when I was reading that part.
Yeah. And I think that they showed in this book, like, he's afraid. You know what I mean? And like, he's afraid of himself. And like, that's tragic. And in probably my favorite Superman stories, it's called Superman Birthright. It's written by my favorite writer. He really kind of shows that like Clark's number one longing is for acceptance. You know what I mean? He and like Lex Luthor kind of in that story weaponizes the fear of the public from Superman, and it's just it's crazy. But like, yeah. And you know what's actually really cool is I like the way they did the glasses in the story. You know what I mean? Like they it wasn't just some random like, you know, glass. It was okay, we got this from the crystals that
was cool.
Yeah, and like there's a reasoning. I'm like, oh hey, you won't like laser someone on accident. So it was good. Yeah, and also for my listeners, a big recommendation is the Jimmy Olsen series by Matt Fraction and Steve Lieber, because there's a great moment where it talks about Superman and Jimmy and saying that Jimmy always feels like he's Superman's goofy pal. And like the title of his like goofy series was called Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen, and it went on for like 150 issues, and it really wasn't very good at all. It's a big bunch of wacky adventures, and Jimmy in that story, like he says to Superman, he's like, oh, I feel like we just goof off. And Superman says, Jimmy, one of my favorite things ever is to goof off with you. You know what I mean? Because everyone needs him to be Superman, but with a character like Jimmy, he can just be like Clark, you know? And he's the only, I think, yeah, it's so good. But, okay, so I guess my last question for you, what would you rate the story out of 10?
I think I would rate it a 9.
Really?
Yeah.
Great. You know what? I just love, people tell me my scale's too high.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm like, this is a great story. And it's I'm so glad. So why is it a 9 in your eyes?
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like a perfect 10 is just like too high up there. And I feel like it wasn't like a B, like an 8.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's how I do my grading scale, and other people don't like it.
Yeah, so it's like a 9, like A minus,
yeah.
90%.
Great. It is a 90. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's great.
I really enjoyed it. I was able to follow it. I feel like the only part that kind of threw me off was the Legion part. But other than that, I mean, I just devoured the story in like 3 hours. I was like, well, can I have all of the issues and read them all now?
I will give you the rest. Yeah. Like literally, guys, for those that don't understand, I gave this story to Regan, and I was like, oh, by the way, here is some random Superman. What did I say? We were like texting, and I was being really bad about trying to get the story to you. And then I was like, oh, I just gave it to Russell. And I gave it to Russell. The next day, I get a text from Regan where she's like, oh my gosh, I've already like read like half of it. I've almost read all of it. I'm like, oh my gosh. Because usually I'll give the story to someone and it'll take them like literally anywhere from 2 weeks or 1 week to 2 to a month to read it. Yeah. So it's pulling teeth. I really appreciate you because you were like, boom, I'm done. And I'm like, oh shoot, I'm not done yet. Like, so good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Would you recommend this, do you think, to someone else?
For sure, yeah, definitely.
Good. Okay, and the most important question is, would you read another comic?
For sure, yes. I want another one right now.
That we will get you something to read, and we'll have you on again, hopefully in the future. Thank you so much, Regan, for coming on the Kim Reads Comics podcast. And remember to my subscribers or my listeners to leave me a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Go follow me on Cameron Reads Comics on Instagram. And please, please, please Go check out my brand new YouTube channel, Cameron Reads Comics on YouTube. We're going to try and give you all that sweet, sweet comic goodness. Thanks, guys. See you later.